Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Over half a century driving the people of Tipperary and surrounding areas with quality, reliable and economical vehicles, new and used. Call the sales team today to discuss your next car or van on 067 24111.
Thanks, Pat. Welcome back to the final hour of Tip Today. We are still flooded with nostalgia stuff. One of our listeners saying, listening to the lovely memories of the show band era. What great times we had hitchhiking to Drumkeen and anywhere else. Our favourite band was, it says here. And then it doesn't tell me who the favourite band was. Anyway, it says lovely people who gave us lifts and waited for us to bring us home as well, and always ensure that we got home safely. Listen around say, this is a very interesting one. I remember being in the Premier Ballroom in Thurles the last time that Tom Dunphy of the Royal Show Band played. He finished off with his usual statement of better be 5 minutes late than dead on time. Unfortunately, he died in a car accident the night after, and that was the same week as the Miami Show Band a massacre as well, and R.I.P. to all. Yeah, that's incredible. I didn't know Tom. I never met Tom, slightly before my time, but by all accounts he was a gentleman and much loved indeed. And of course he had a huge hit with If I Didn't Have a Dime. There you go, the old grey cells are coming back to me indeed. Okay, lots more memories coming into us, so I guess we will get back to it at another point. But right now it is time for our Wellbeing slot, and delighted to be joined as usual by Muriel Cuddy. Good morning to you, Muriel.
Morning, Fran.
Good to see you. So we're going to go from nostalgia and the show bands to Irritable Bowel Syndrome.
And Sham, and I was listening to him because I remember, Jesus, I don't feel that old, but like 30 years ago, I remember going to Dungarvan from Ballymach. So they'd win whatever match, and then at 11 o'clock when you were kind of kicked out or ready to head on, like we had the car. I remember we fell in the boot one night. Like the car was like 5 or 6 in the back. Yeah, the same thing. Like that's,
and we would have the cheek to preach to youngsters.
Oh, I know. When I was listening to Sham and you even saying like enjoy it, and we are looking at them giving out like for drinking and whatever it is, but like they're doing what young people do. We all did it, didn't we? Maybe we didn't drink to the same extent and we had the crack, but we had places to go. Like we had like Dungarvan, Cahir, Manila, Dano's, or the Arms. We had so many places to go. Like you were trying to decide which direction did you go on a.
And we didn't appreciate it at the time, which is the point that Sham made. But do you find yourself being patronising to young people and saying, "Look, enjoy this now because it's going to fly by"?
I don't. I'm actually saying to them, "Stop! You shouldn't be drinking," and "Stop! You shouldn't be." But when I'm listening there, like I shouldn't be doing that because they are 20s, and like we did it all in our 20s, didn't we? From whatever young age.
This is their time,
and I didn't want to stop. Yeah. Like I remember 29 when I was pregnant, I was like, oh my God, life is now going to change big time. So yeah, they should be doing it. And oh Lord, it did.
It did indeed. Yeah. So that brings us to the things that concern us at this point in life, which is Irritable Bowel Syndrome. And again, I have to ask you for clarity on this because I think it needs clarity. What is it?
It does. And you know, I wanted this to have a show on its own, as in we always do Irritable Bowel Syndrome and we do inflammatory bowel disorder or disease. We do all of them together. I want this as a standalone because 20% of people in Ireland are suffering from this. Even
20%?
more. 20%.
1 in 5?
1 in 5, yeah.
Wow.
And I even think it's even more than that. I think so many people present with this to me, right? So what is it? It's a common chronic digestive disorder, right? So it's a functional disease, and that's when the gut and brain don't or over communicate. You know, I say all the time about the gut is our first brain and then this is our second brain. So the gut and the brain have to communicate. When they don't communicate, the intestines are oversensitive, so you're affecting the large intestine, right? So this it doesn't cause damage or inflammation to the digestive tract, or it doesn't increase your risk of bowel cancer, but it means your immune system is low, that this system here, your gut, is in trouble. And you know, 78% of our immune system is in our gut, and even things like serotonin, like 95% of our serotonin, that literally comes up through the gut to your brain. So if your gut is in trouble, you're in trouble, basically.
So what can be done about
What can be done?
this?
I suppose before what can be done, can I say literally, like, I suppose, when does it start, Fran? Right? So like It can start as early as your early 20s.
Yeah.
It presents to me kind of late 20s, 30s and 40s, right? It can be genetic. And I always say this to people, think back, when was the first time you actually felt you had, say, so to speak, a dodgy stomach? Or in families, there's like, that's like, say, a Sullivan stomach or that's whatever, and they have a name on it already, right? But when I talk to people and I say, go back along, were you like an anxious child? Were there foods that you just wouldn't eat? So like, no matter how many times somebody, like 3,000 times they're supposed to, most of us will try most things and you'll tolerate most things.
Yeah.
But you'll nearly know if you go back into childhood, yeah, I always had that kind of a stomach and I always had that anxiety or, that gut feeling, so to speak. So the genetic piece can be there and it can go back to early childhood, but it can develop after a serious bout of diarrhea from a bacterial virus as well. So like, it can come on literally at any stage, right?
Right. So my idea that it's associated with, middle-aged people is not the case.
Not at all. And people that present to me middle-aged on are presenting because they're in such a state at that stage, or they have never known what to do. And they have been like the rounds of doctors, etc., etc. They're trying to manage it themselves, but they've never got a proper handle on it. And you remember I said to you at Christmas time, we were talking before Christmas, talking about food and, would we go off track and eating and all that kind of thing. And I said to you, there is a cohort of people that really can't go off track over Christmas time because they will be really unwell. So you might be able to do 1 meal or 2 meals, but you'll get such symptoms from it. You'll just feel so unwell, you just won't want to do it again. And I'm getting that feedback already now in January, as in when I say, how did your Christmas go? If somebody wasn't on track, they're like, Muriel, absolutely awful. I spent 3 or 4 days like on the couch or in bed or like cramps, diarrhea, things like that, And it affects more women than men, Fran.
Does it indeed?
Yeah, about 40% of women, 30% of men.
Do we know why that is?
No, there's no known reason, but yeah, it definitely affects more women. Maybe the hormonal side can definitely drive the women's side, as in there's definitely a lot more going on there.
See, I think an awful lot of people have issues like you've described and think of it almost as half normal. Do you know?
Yeah.
That's the way I go about it. Sure, I have that old problem.
Always. And as you get older, you're kind of supposed to have.
Yeah.
But like, I have a list of symptoms, right? And I go through this list of symptoms with people to ask them how many of these do they have, right? So some of these people are like, wow, and does that present? I never would have thought that was part of IBS or whatever. So I'm just going to run down through them, right?
Please,
and these are, I suppose, what we would even say as in the softer ones that you don't have to go to your doctor with, because there are ones you have to go to the doctor with as well. So the symptoms like severe abdominal pain, right? Cramping, bloating, gas, down or up. And the gas is excessive gas, right? So you'll know it's, and people come into me with just the gas piece. It's that bad that they can't live with it, which is, yeah. And I know you don't like talking about that.
Or somebody else can't live with it.
Yeah, but literally, yeah, depending. Diarrhea, constipation, or both. Mucus in your stool. Diarrhea that can wake you up in your sleep, right? Nauseousness, indigestion, the heartburn, the acid reflux. Then the skin side, the acne, the eczema, the psoriasis, like any of the skin issues, literally. Depression, anxiety, fatigue, frequent illnesses, pelvic pain, sugar cravings, food intolerance issues, backaches, headaches, sleep problems. And to me, that's the softer side. Then the side that you do have to, what would you say, get investigated to actually see, is there something more sinister, or is it like one of the conditions like inflammatory bowel disease, rectal bleeding or blood in your stool, unexplained weight loss, so weight loss of more than 2 kg, more than 5 pounds, 4.5 pounds, fever, diarrhea again that wakes you up would be one of the ones I would definitely get investigated, and the bladder issues like the frequent urgency, the not emptying your bladder, and the other things like, that we were talking about, as in, does it present like, say, heart, or the shoulder pain that we get. Like, you can get shoulder pain. Yeah. And this can be like related to, say, your diaphragm. The diaphragm muscle sits like a lid just below your ribs, right? So this is reference points in the shoulder area. So when your intestines expand, it sends signals to the shoulder area. So you can get pain down your shoulder. So people come to me and I'll go through the symptoms and I'll say about shoulder pain. They're like, what's that got to do with? My gosh, or what's that got to do with anything? I'm like, well, that is all part of it, or can be all part of it. So it's funny, because people will even say, like I was saying to you earlier on about the heart side, and I have to get them to rule out the heart when they present with symptoms that might be heart related, but they're really frightened. But I can say to them, like, just go and rule it out and then come back to me. So get those tests done, rule out that piece, and we can then work on what's actually causing it. But the vagus nerve runs from the gut to the brain.
Just push that back to you.
Yeah. It branches into the chest on the way, right? So when the large intestine starts acting up, it sends a signal to the brain. This can trigger signals along the way, right? So you can picture the body, like the different signals.
Yes.
The brain might interpret these signals coming from somewhere else. So it causes sensation in these areas. So that could be in the chest pressure. It could be heart palpitations. It could be an irregular heartbeat. It can be a panic attack, shoulder pain, anxiety. So this can all come from our system here being dysregulated, if that makes sense. So like it's all kind of crazy or kind of scary, isn't it? But it can all come from the one area. Can you manage it? Absolutely, 100% you can manage it. And once you do start to manage it, you become well, and then you know your triggers and you know the symptoms that are related to it. So it takes the fear and anxiety away.
So how do you even start? I mean, where do you start?
Where do you start? Well, it's lifestyle. Like lifestyle is number one. Like if you're in a flare-up, there's things you can do. So we'll go to that in a minute. But like the very basics in the beginning, the foods that make it worse. So I always say the 5 pillars: nutrition, hydration, sleep, exercise, and stress and anxiety. So people will know them off by heart because I will stay saying them, right? But the foods that can make it worse, because we can control our diet. That's one of the easiest things, first of all, right? Fried fatty foods, dairy, especially lactose foods, right? Wheat, anything at all. Too much fibre. Now, that's a big one that people don't actually realise. So fibre is in things like oats, Weet-Bix, breads, all of that. But it's skin on things. So it can be skin on fruit. It can be skin on potatoes.
But fibre is important to us.
Fibre is so important, but you have to do a gradual soluble fibre.
Okay.
So you have to introduce it gradually. Say like oats and things like that. You can do breads, but you're looking at bread like maybe like a spelt bread or maybe like a sourdough bread. So you have to work really intensely with somebody to actually figure out what works or what doesn't work, Right. So some things.
And what is it? Trial and error?
Oh, totally, Fran. You're literally you're doing a food diary. Okay. You bring the food diary with you, and I'll start going through it. And even with the symptom checklist, I'll say to people, like even things like onion and garlic are really good in a good gut because they're antibacterial. But in a gut that isn't well, they're like awful. You can cook them and then you're reducing the antibacterial side. It's like diluting Dettol, and they're not as bad. But things like this that you would think are very good for you in a gut that has IBS, they're not great or they're not good at all. And then things like sweeteners. And like you think you're doing okay, like a lot of people put a sweetener in their coffee or whatever to stay away from sugar, but that'll actually drive you cracked. Like chemicals and things like that will drive a gut that isn't well. And the way lately with menopause, they're driving the protein side, and they're saying to women need protein and so much protein. And like a lot of women that are coming into me like are taking the protein shakes, or they're looking for added protein in things, which is like only a synthetic form of protein. So that can actually drive you cracked. So like things like, say, your added protein in milk or, there's extra whatever. It costs like €2 or €3 extra, but you're actually probably getting nearly as much protein in your normal milk, for the same money without a synthetic form being added. So yeah, I won't say it's a minefield. It's not. It's very simple once you simplify it. But you have to, I suppose, get somebody to help you simplify it. Fizzy drinks, caffeinated, even chocolate, beans, and even some fruits like apples, pears, things like that. The skin on them, and the pectin and things like that can really exacerbate. But there's a lot of food you can eat. There's a lot of good foods you can eat, but you just have to figure out what are my triggers and or not.
You didn't mention alcohol there.
Oh, sure, alcohol would be one of the big ones, Alcohol. When I'm saying to people, if they love a glass of wine, what I try to do with people, and I have a lot of men that come in and they love their pint and they're like, you can do anything you like, but don't take away my pint. So we really work on this side, and then we leave their kind of 20% as their pint.
Right.
And
but the pint could be a trigger, Muriel.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. And if it is, they'll know themselves, because if they work really hard in the food and they're well, when they have their pint, they become really unwell. So a lot of the time it figures itself out, as in they'll say to me, well, actually I've cut it out because I was dying after it. Do you know what I mean? So you work with somebody, and one of the things that really struck a chord with me after Christmas this year, Fran, was getting this right, okay, even to within 80%, because this is not a disease. So this is not something that's going to kill you. It's going to make you feel really unwell, and it can hamper your life. As in, a girl said to me during the week, she was avoiding life because of all of this, but now she's living life. But one of the things that really struck a chord was the first symptom I'm noticing with people that's lifting is the anxiety, the brain, the depression. That's the first piece of people are actually saying to me. Yeah, I think, Muriel, I'm feeling a little bit better without medication or without.
And is that because there's a direct influence on the brain, or is it just because overall I feel a bit healthier? So
there is a direct correlation. There is a direct correlation, and I know that myself, is in I eat well and I exercise, because once this piece is well, your brain directly, like it has to, if this is inflamed if there's like a soreness and an illness and all of that in the main engine in the body, every other piece of the body isn't getting what it needs to get. So everything becomes inflamed. So if you get that into your head of like, if I can become more well here, well then this might lift, my brain might lift, my head might lift, that I might feel more well. It's kind of a game changer, Fran, when it comes to your food.
I can imagine, indeed. How long does it take to come to some sort of a situation where you begin to feel better even? Or is that as long as a piece of string? Everybody's different, obviously.
Everybody's completely different. So for some people, literally within 10 days to 2 weeks, when they remove the inflammatories, I could get a message to say, this is amazing. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think I feel better. Now, it's literally, Fran, sometimes you don't notice in the early stages. You will come with so many different symptoms. There isn't a tablet I can give you going out the door. So it's a lifestyle that we have to work on. So I say to people, it's like you're in the back of a cave and you're in complete darkness. And to become well is literally like you see a tea light and you see a tea light and you see a tea light and you're walking out of the cave that eventually you see light, if that makes sense. So the tea lights are like, do I feel a little bit better? Oh, I like one of the big things is waking up early in the morning. That's one of the things that people would say, well, that was my first time to notice I felt better. I woke before the alarm clock. And I wasn't absolutely banjaxed that I was able to get up and feel okay. Like, how many people are waking up in the morning and hitting the clock again and again and again and knackered out completely for no known reason? Like, our lives are busy, but we are supposed to be able to cope. Like, we all work. We all have kids. We all have, like, whatever worries, financial or like whatever it is. We all have those. Trauma is different if somebody's very unwell. But it's either trauma or it's, what is it? What's the other word that you use? If it's not a trauma in your world... I can't think of the word at the minute, but the other side of it is if it's not a huge stressor, they're all minor stressors that we all have every single day, right? And I suppose when I listened to a podcast over Christmas and the girl that was in it said, we're actually privileged. She had been very unwell and she said, you actually have to live every day and enjoy the everyday bit. Because you get happiness from every day. You can't wait for the holiday and you can't wait for whatever the wedding and you can't wait until you're like 2 stone slimmer and you can't wait for all the things you wish you think are going to make you happy. So this is one of the things with this. You actually become more well and more happy within your everyday world because you're able to do it easier if you get that piece right.
Right, so it's worth the dedication and the investigation and all.
Oh, totally, yeah.
Somebody wondering, does a blood test tell you whether or not you have IBS? That's the problem. It doesn't. Sure,
it doesn't. No, and like people go and they have they come to me and say I've had a colonoscopy and an endoscopy and an MRI and a CT scan and everything, and nothing showed up anything, Muriel, but I am dying on my feet. What's wrong? That's the issue with this. It's irritable bowel syndrome. So it's a syndrome. You can't see it.
I'm guessing here, but you, I imagine, would prefer that situation where somebody's gone through all of the other tests, the medical tests, and they come to you and say, look.
I would and I wouldn't, as in, for me, and even when I do the bloods, and people will say that they have to show something, and then I'm running down through the bloods and every single blood parameter is perfect. And they're like, well, what's wrong with me? I'm like, that's brilliant now. We can park all of that. Your health is really good. So there's nothing there. If a blood test or if, say, like the colonoscopy showed up something, then there's a disease or there's a rawness or there's an illness or there's something there that it takes long-term management and maybe even medication. Whereas with this, when nothing can be seen, we know it's symptoms. So we know it's lifestyle. So no, we know we can manage it. So it's up to us then to manage it. Does that make sense? So it's not affecting our health as such, bar maybe malabsorption. You understand what I mean by malabsorption? That
you're just not absorbing the best of the food.
So then maybe things like your B12 might be low or your magnesium might be low, and that can cause then issues like tingling or real tiredness or like restless legs or something like that.
All right, John is in Borsley. He's wondering if a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil every morning is good for you.
All essential fats are wonderful. Essential fat drives down inflammation in the body. So I'd say to people all the time, 25% of your daily foods should come from essential fat, and that's your extra virgin olive oil. So you use extra virgin olive oil on everything, on salads, on so many different things. You can cook with avocado oil, cook with sesame oil, things like that to like 200 degree temperature. But like fish, avocados, eggs, nuts and seeds, if your stomach can take them. But that should be 25% of your diet. Protein come in then behind it at 25%, and then put your carbohydrates in, the good ones after that. But that really gives you a balanced diet. But the essential fat should be in like every meal, breakfast, lunch and dinner. That just helps reduce inflammation.
That's interesting. And, you know what's occurring to me? I was telling you off air that I'm trying this dry January thing with no alcohol, and I'm trying to decide whether it really has a very good effect on me. And I think it has, largely, mainly because my mind is clearer.
Yeah, because it's an inflammatory. So when it's an inflammatory, it's going to affect internally. So it will affect the gut and it will affect the brain. And one of the things with alcohol is, which we don't realise really, because I suppose sometimes we don't sleep very well anyway. But like if you have alcohol, so if you have more than one glass of wine at night, you go on to your second glass, more than likely you'll go into a deep sleep the minute you go to bed, but you'll wake up by 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
Exactly.
And then you have the restless sleep that you're tossing and turning until whatever, 5 or 6 o'clock. It does increase anxiety. It does increase the stress levels, you know. So if you can actually eliminate that your sleep is better, that's your number one straight away, Fran, you know. So we are better off without it. But in some instances, a glass of wine, even the placebo effect of holding the glass and bringing it to the lips, it's like the cigarette. It actually makes somebody relax. So that's a habit that they have to break, and they have to find other ways of relaxing if that is their hand-to-mouth action of relaxing.
Yeah, there's lots I find interesting about the effect of not drinking for the first time, and I don't know.
Do you think you could stay off it?
That's a very interesting question. I'm not sure about that. I would find the socialising without it extremely difficult, because I wouldn't be your natural party animal or something like that, you know.
But do you think you would be able to do that, as in maybe have a drink when you're socialising, but that's it? Just leave it, because a lot of people do that they cut it out and just do it when they're actually out. And
possibly, but I would like to see the full effect, giving it even more than a month. I'd like to see maybe after 6 weeks or 2 months.
They say 12 weeks, and they say even with health markers and that. And you know, for anyone that is pre-diabetic or diabetes or things like that, all of that, it'll definitely help all your health markers. Because even when you are drinking, you do tend to eat wrong. So you do, even you're reaching for other things at night.
Sure.
And the next morning, more certainly, unless you're very, what would you say, disciplined, your breakfast can be wrong, because if the alcohol's in your system, your blood sugar levels, you might crave more sugar or whatever, so you're looking for the pastry instead of looking for the eggs and the avocado or something, you know. So it definitely will help. If you could do 12 weeks, it'd be amazing.
Be interesting. So what do you say to people who are out there like me and trying this and sort of suffering and the pain in the ass to everybody around them about it?
I think it's actually amazing. I think if somebody can do it, I think if they've gotten through the first 2 or 3 weeks and the habit is actually being made, you've had the discipline to instill this habit, I actually think you should keep going. I think you should give yourself, we don't validate ourselves on any level. I say this all the time, and we're never proud of ourselves for what we do. To do something like this, you should be giving yourself a major pat in the back and say, right, okay, maybe I can do another week. And if you can do another week, Fran, keep it going. Keep it going.
1 week at a time.
Yeah. Sweet Jesus.
If people want to talk to you or talk to Charlotte, how can they do that, Muriel?
It's 062 88002.
You have it in front of you now.
No, I don't.
Getting very slick on this. Yeah. All right, Muriel, thanks very much indeed for that. It's 11:26. Back in just a moment.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puckon. Now is the time to pick up your next van. From the award-winning Peugeot Partner van to the Expert and the load-lugging Boxer van. We have big vans, high-roof vans, long wheelbase vans. You'll find them all at Slattery's Garage Puckon. See slatterysgarage.ie.